Why do the religious think that the world works the way that it clearly does not? Because they're infected with a mind poison called religion, and we as rational people, we need to fight it. So let's spend a couple of minutes talking about it, okay? I've noticed this quite a bit lately, so I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about this nugget of irrationality from the religious. Well, one more nugget, because that's really all they have to present, as we well know. But tell me this, how many times have you run into a theist saying that religion is true because so many people have believed it and found it to be true? Well, I'm sorry, but that's not how truth works. And trying to argue about it doesn't get you anywhere because, as I've pointed out in the past, they're really just trying to rationalize their way to this pre-existing position. Whether or not it's true doesn't seem to make one whit of difference to the faithful. Now, in these kind of discussions, I notice this goes around a couple of times with them saying, because people believe it, that makes it true. And when it's pointed out to them that that's not how logic and reason operate, they'll keep coming back and repeating themselves verbatim over and over until they can see that they're not getting anywhere. Then they'll throw an insult your way and they'll run for the hills. This is not how adults operate. This is how children operate. These people very clearly aren't concerned at all about whether or not what they believe is factually correct. It's the farthest thing from their minds. They don't care, but I think on some level they recognize that they ought to care, that other people expect them to care, and not live their entire lives embracing their emotional comfort to the exclusion of all else, so they pretend. And that's all they can do, because they're not serious about it. They really couldn't care less so long as what they believe makes them feel good. They have to say something to appease the people who look at them and think that they're nuts, and they think that this will do the deed. And they're wrong, because rational people, the skeptical people, we're actually concerned if what someone believes can be intelligently and evidentially demonstrated to be correct in the real world. It matters to us that our views and the views of others, since their beliefs inform their actions, are as critically defensible as we can possibly make them. And if they aren't, then those views need to be discarded or at least provisionally set aside until they can be better supported by the facts. But the religious are incapable of doing that because their beliefs form a huge portion of their own self-image. Their blind faith colors everything that they can see. I've had several discussions lately with people who seem incapable of recognizing that their own beliefs are not true just because they believe it. That simple fact seems to elude them. They aren't even capable of considering the possibility that they're wrong. In fact, in one instance over on Reddit, the theist kept saying that God has proven his existence to believers for thousands of years, therefore God is real. And when I pointed out that the belief in God did that, not God himself, because there's no direct causal link that can be drawn between those experiences and any actual demonstrable God, he just ignored that and went back to repeating his false claims. And this is very common because it just doesn't matter to these people. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, that will make them reconsider the things in their head because they have founded their very identity on the existence of these things. Without them, their entire psychological house of cards comes crashing down. This is not something that they ought to be proud of, but unfortunately, they are. And that's not all their fault. When you get bad ideas in your head, those ideas grab hold and are very, very difficult to dislodge. That's why it's so hard to deconvert people, especially the fanatics, because you have to do more than just get rid of a few silly beliefs. You have to rebuild their entire psyche from the ground up, And for most people, that's absurdly difficult. But just because the problem is hard to solve, that doesn't mean it isn't necessary to solve. This is why religion takes so long to wipe out, because most of the people who've been infected with it their entire lives aren't capable of giving it up. They have to die. We have to wait until these terrible ideas pass out of the population through attrition. Religion causes permanent brain damage the longer it remains in your head and the more seriously you take it. There comes a point in time where it's virtually impossible to recover, where so much damage has been done that the individuals who still believe this nonsense will actively fight to remain infected with this mind poison. It can't be extracted via debate. It can't be extracted by logic or reason. It can only be excised by the individuals themselves. And unfortunately, we also know that religion, the very beliefs that caused the disease in the first place, act to protect themselves from the seeds of rationality and skepticism. It wants, to anthropomorphize it a bit, to maintain control. It pumps those good little feel-good chemicals into your brain every time you do something it wants. If it were that easy, religion would be dead and buried. Instead, it controls people, it controls societies, it controls governments, and it will fight to the death through the actions of adherents to maintain supremacy no matter how many people have to get hurt or killed to do so. And you'll wonder why I spent so much time speaking out against it. Why I think that irrationality, especially in the form of religion, is the biggest, most dangerous problem that we as humans face. You didn't see communists strapping on bomb vests and blowing up innocent people because they believed in a reward in some imaginary afterlife. You don't see flat earthers opening fire on the halls of science because they want to wipe out the heretics. You don't see anti-vaxxers starting wars because they can't tolerate the very existence of the opposition. This stuff only comes from religion. And even though those other ideas are terrible, at least you can kind of discuss them to a certain degree and get through to all but the utter fanatics. How many religious debates have you had where the theist said, you're right, this is a bad idea after all? Not many, I'm sure, because religion harms those who are infected with it, and through them, it harms us all. It controls how people think, how they vote, how they raise their children, and how they treat others. It inherently seeks control, and like a virus, it tries to infect as many people as it can. And this is something that we, as rational human beings, simply cannot allow. Religion has damaged humanity for far too long. It cannot be allowed to do so further. So please, fight with me, won't you? Make sure that you subscribe and hit that bell notification button, and please, spread the word. We need more people involved in the fight. We are winning, but only by the smallest of margins, and this is taking far, far too long. And every day that this continues, more people are harmed. I say, stop the damage. Oppose irrational thought. Do it for us all. Humanity deserves better.